where we try to enlighten you and share information that are very, very germane to you as a business, as a chief executive of that business or that organization that you're running, and information that you can use to make a difference, even as individuals in your community. Of course, all of us are in this economy together, and so we'll be looking more at where we are going from here, knowing that we are in the fourth quarter of the year. Fourth quarter of the year. Can you imagine that? Just like yesterday. And as usual, I have with me a respected, talented, multi-dimensional GMD in the person of Mr. Godfrey Ajayi Sunday. Welcome to
thank you, Mr. Osai Lume. Yes, the reason why we do this program is to focus on the MSMEs, as micro, small, medium enterprises. They are the engine room for our growth.
Yes, sir.
So we've not realized it, and that's why we're still beating around the bush. Somebody says if you see a lady that you like and you begin to wink at her in the dark, there is no way you get response from her.
Wow.
So, Osai, I want to welcome you again to our usual CEOG Connect, where we talk about topical issues around the MSMEs and how they can fit into the macro economy and vis-a-vis the policies of the government, so that we can actually realize their potentials and the reasons why they are set up.
Thank you very much. Now, we're going to look quite deeply into the last quarter of the year. The year is usually divided into 4 quarters. So we have from January to April, or January to March as first quarter, and April, May, June, the second quarter, July, August, September, the third quarter, then you have October, November, December as the fourth quarter. Now, each of these quarters have specific, activities that businesses are expected to engage in. And so, for you as a business, it's also very important to begin to adopt some of those practices if you want to be a big business. And that is why we'll be looking into this last quarter. What are the expectations that the business community, the policymakers are expecting small businesses to be involved in?
Yeah, as an addendum to that, you basically talk about quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4.
Yes.
And there's also something also called the fiscal year.
Yes.
Which most nations adopt. They want to end their year by December.
Yes.
Or they actually want to end their year in March. So depending on the fiscal measure
calendar that they have adopted.
Okay, so for Nigeria, at the point that we had to do March, but currently we're operating
January to December,
which again is what our budget also fit into. So we thank God that the National Assembly, the President has been able to make the presentation of the budget for next year, 2024. And we're hoping that by January 1st, the President will read the budget to us. So, but before we talk about 2024, we're looking at this quarter, which is essentially the quarter where everything comes to an end. The fiscal year comes to an end in that December. Then consolidation is generally, done and agreed upon. Okay, you want to see the gains of quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, up to quarter 4. Yeah, so this is where the big festival also fall into the Christmas festival. And a lot of people will tell you it's like this Christmas took us unawares. When things are rosy, they say we plan for the Christmas, but if things are not rosy, so we look at the private sector side and we also look at
the public sector.
The public sector side. The way we run our economy mostly in Africa is that the private sector is highly dependent on
the government, on the public sector.
So that's where we are, and I can tell you that from we're in December right now. The public sector salary are just being paid for the month of November.
Wow.
Okay, so
1 week into the other month.
So of course we're doing a license for a microfinance, a government a public sector organization, and they're telling us, look, for us to be able to meet up with the capitalization, we have not been paid salary. So you can see that the government side, how it's affecting now the private sector side. So governments not spending as they should spend will, of course, have effect on the totality of the economy.
Yes.
And I can tell you now that even the payment system, the contract payment system is also changing now.
Yes.
Okay? I remember we did a job, and they're saying, look, if by 10th of every month, if it's not captured, that means that you cannot get paid in that month. You have to wait for the following quarter for you to get paid. Okay, so some people argue that it is good such that there will not be environment again. Because again, you can have different departments in a ministry or in an MDA. So you can wake up overnight and discover that your budget has been taken over by another department. So the school of thought and argument now is that to some extent is good if it's well implemented. So fourth quarter is the consolidation quarter, where everything will be consolidated, and before we move on to first quarter of the next year.
Now, it's very interesting. You know, you mentioned something about consolidation. You know, taking a cue from what the government is doing. But I agree with you. In Africa, and indeed in the whole world, because if you look at the economy of the US, I can tell you that it is also largely dependent, the private sector is largely dependent on the government.
Yeah.
You know, so all over the world, government is the big spender. All right. So the moment government is not able to spend, you know, you discover that the economy will begin to shrink because less activities will be, you know, will be going on in the economy. Small businesses.
Yeah, in as much as it's that way, we must deliberately try to see how we can grow the private sector now.
Sure.
Because from the US that you mentioned now, you can see that there are big private players.
Of course.
Even you have some big private players that are as big as the government themselves, and they take initiative.
Definitely.
Okay, so that's what we should be driving at.
No, it's true, but you know, even the likes of Amazon, the likes of Starlinks, you know, these are big corporations, but they still, you know, juggle and jostle for government contracts because, you know, in one way or the other, it helps them to sustain, you know, the size of the company. It helps them to also take initiative.
Yeah, because when it comes to infrastructure, generally,
exactly,
government are the drivers.
Government are the drivers.
Drivers of,
you know. So it becomes very, very important as well as businesses. Yes, as the GMD is saying, we need to deliberately build a private sector, but we need to also be taking cues from what the government is doing.
Yeah.
You know, so for instance, now we're talking about the last quarter, you know, of 2023. So what are you supposed to do as a small business in this last quarter? The GMD pointed out it's a moment for consolidation. All that you have been doing since January, so this is a time you are supposed to kind of do a review, take a snap view of what has happened, you know, what needs to be done. And taking a cue from the government, the president has presented a budget. And so that tells you that this is also the time where you begin to think about budget for next year.
Yeah, so whatever government does, it's followed a structure. And for you as an MSME, you need to develop structures.
Yes.
Okay, so and part of the structure is the structure of budgeting. Okay, so because again, you know, we complain that government is not disciplined, and you discover that a lot of micro, small, medium enterprises don't even have
that discipline.
Yeah, they don't even have that budget. They spend on impulse. So now take a cue with what government is doing. Government has 3 arms of government.
Exactly.
Okay, so and there is checks and balances. So similarly, a private sector driven organization should also have those structure where you have probably the audit, the internal control. You have your human resource department that has to do with recruitment of the staff that are relevant. You have the operations department. So a typical entrepreneur or a typical enterprise should have a budget.
Exactly.
Okay, this is what I'm a board member in one of the leading microfinance bank in Nigeria, and we have what we call quarterly board meetings, and there are committee meetings.
Yes.
So, and for this last quarter, the CEO came, made presentation to us, and he followed a particular pattern where after projecting for 2024, he compared that projections to what happened in 2023. So we're able to look at issues of 2023 vis-a-vis, are we going to be able to meet up with the expectations of 2024? So as a micro, medium enterprise owner, you must have a budget if you need to actually move forward. And this is, what they call bottom-top approach,
exactly,
where the departments prepare their budget and the finance department now consolidate, then compare to what happened the previous year to know whether you're making progress or not. So budget is the way to go.
Very, very essential. Very, very essential. You need to begin to put together what you are expecting to expend or what you are expecting to generate.
So because with the budgeting system, you will be able to say, okay, this was my performance last year.
Yes.
I want to do a 20% or a 30% or even 100%
of this performance.
Of the performance that you did the previous year. Then, if, of course, you didn't do what you expect to do the previous year, then you can always ask questions. What happened? Is it the microeconomy? Is it the macroeconomy? Is it management?
Exactly.
Okay, so you must look at those things. Is this management that is not doing what they are supposed to do? Okay, or you can zero into an individual.
Exactly.
That, okay, this is the problem.
Or a department.
Or a department. To say, okay, you are the problem of this organization. You need to make a change for us to be able to move on. So it's a difficult process.
Exactly.
But for you to become a structured company, for you to become relevant in the future, these are things that you must
You must learn to adopt. You must learn to apply. Now talking about zeroing, into an individual or into a department to be able to identify what are those challenges that you have faced in the outgoing year or in the previous year, and how you can better prepare, for the next year, for the incoming year. It's also a moment where you are able to incentivize, for instance, it's not just about who did not do well, but again,
who exceeded
your expectations, who exceeded your target, for the outgoing year.
Yeah, there are things called key performance indicators.
Yes.
Which, again, we are pushing government to say, what are your key performance indicators? I mean, the last recruitment of the ministers recently, I tried to look at it and I said, look, Mr. President will have done better by just maybe giving a recruitment agency the opportunity to recruit the ministers. Or if they want to do it internally, it can also be done. So what do you do? If I were the president, okay, I would ask, because the party that wins determine,
who gets
who gets what. So, okay, so if I am him, if I was the president, I would have asked the governor of the state to give me a candidate, because the law says that there must be a minister from each of the state. So we're looking at about 36 plus FCT, making 37. So you want to recruit 37 people. Okay, so what do you do? Very simple. So you ask the governor, give me a candidate, the party chairman, give me a candidate, then maybe another very influential person in the party, give me a candidate from your state. So you now have three candidates to vie.
You put them through a screening process.
Yeah, you put them through a screening process. They go and write an exam. So from there you drop one. Then they come for oral interview. You drop another one. So you now have one candidate who is on merit and is a party loyalist because they were selected by the party.
Exactly.
Party people. So
party structure.
Yeah. So that's what the private sector does. Essentially, key performance indicators.
Yes.
So you must have to put those key performance indicators. So, and once you are able to exceed those indicators, then you get incentivized, just as you have mentioned.
Exactly.
Okay, so everybody is happy. And I've come to the conclusion as a management practitioner that, look, everything is targetable. Okay? I mean, like, you just imagine that it's only marketers that should get target. No. The organization itself knows where it's going. That's where you talk about the vision and the mission of the organization. So, okay, so you break it down by going specifically to the objectives. Okay, so by the budget, you're saying, look, this department, this is what we want you to achieve. So by the end of the quarter, we measure you, okay, to see whether you have exceeded or whether you're unable to exceed. So we find out the reasons. These are ways in which organizations are run, whether they are governments or they are private sector organizations. And we want you as MSMEs to begin to take cue from, they look simple, you know, and you can hire a management consultant to help you look at all these things if you really want to build organization. Today is so painful that you cannot find a company in Nigeria or in Africa that has lived for 100 years. So it's because of all these small things. By the time you die, your business dies along with you. Then we have a major problem. So in this century, in this era, we're not going to allow things like this to happen. And that's why we take our time to do the CEO G Connect, targeting the CEO to be able to do the right thing. Looking at the recruitment process, looking at organizational structure, and how to deploy it for maximum productivity.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, you see, there is no gainsaying, you know, repeating this again and again, the importance for you to have a structure as an organization, to structure your organization, to make your organization a system organization whereby it's not just dependent on one person, you know, but you have, you know, different individuals with different portfolios, with different responsibilities, you know, and pursuing those responsibilities with everything that they have got, because you also have a way of providing them the necessary tools and motivation that they need to carry out those assignments. So, sir, let's look at, you know, because we're saying that you need to budget. Now, you need to make plan for the next year. Making those plans, making those budgets are all part of assumption. It's derived from assumptions. And your assumptions might be very wrong if you don't do enough of good analysis of what the economy is going, because you are in the midst of the economy. So you are not isolated from the economy. So you need to have that understanding of where the economy is going to also enable you to plan adequately. So what are the projections that we are looking at? How is the economy going to look at next year? Two quick things. We have number one, example, because we're taking cue from the government. The president is selling his private jet. What signal is that giving? The current CBN governor is also making, you know, some kind of gestures signaling that there might be another consolidation in the banking sector. You know, what are the meaning of this?
For you to drive your revenue, there are three things you would need to do. Or let me say, for you to drive your profits, there are three things as an entrepreneur that you must do. Number one is that you must look at how to increase your revenue. How do I make sure that the figures are going up? Okay, so number two that you can possibly do is to reduce your cost. You look at your cost overlay, your cost overheads. How do I bring them down? Okay, then the third thing you need to do is how do you do a combination of the two? I increase my revenue and I also reduce. And that's why I feel that the private sector is doing better than the government. So if Mr. President today is taking the initiative to say, look, let's sell the private jets. I mean, there is an adage that says, cut your
coat according to your clothes, not your size
okay,
anymore.
So, you know, when I hear that analogy, so if you are now on the big side and the cloth is not enough.
That's why I'm saying cut it according to your clothes.
So, I think that's where we are now.
Yes.
That's where we are now. And the earlier we come to that realization, you know, you don't have the money and you are spending it ahead. It's like a doomsday. Okay,
waiting to happen.
Yes. So, I mean, we have had instances where China are giving a lot of loan now, and they're tying your infrastructure to that.
Yes.
They can say, okay, we're taking over your ports if you're unable to pay us. So we must cut our coat according to our cloth right now. And that's what Mr. President is saying. Okay? So when it comes to the consolidation by the Central Bank of Nigeria, well, I agree with them, but these days, innovation is the name of the game.
Exactly.
innovation, creativity and innovation. What do I mean by that? You have the fintech banking sector now that have defied all odds to render service, okay, based on the deployment of technology. So when, I had a discussion with the research department yesterday to discuss with them that, look, when it comes to things like this, it's innovation that should drive, okay? So if you're asking us to capitalize, well and good, but you have a fintech that is rendering you service and is using the technology to track your relationship with him. And it's telling you at a point in time that, look, you are qualified for a loan of 500,000 now based on your transaction.
Based on your credit score?
Yes. So you are not just doing business with them, they are using the technology to track your transaction. And they are now telling you what you can possibly gain. So tell me, how many Nigerian banks these days is able to do that? Okay? I deliberately am in a GIZ program, and I deliberately told them that, look, I'm having a problem with accessing loan from the bank. So they brought in an expert to talk to me. And by the time we finished the discussion, the expert also now agreed that, look, the problem is banking sector. Even though some people argue that, look, they need to secure their money. But if I do a 1 million naira transaction with you every month, that should give me a level of loan facility.
Exactly.
Okay? And you should be able to say, okay, you've been consistent for over a year doing a turnover of 1 million every month. So it means that if I give you a loan of 200,000, your turnover will be able to cover that.
Yes.
So I don't need a collateral. Okay? So consolidating the banking sector, it's okay, but we must be able to support those who are coming up with technology to be able to do things better the way they ought to be done. Today, I'm hearing that this is Q4.
Yes.
There is scarcity of money again.
Exactly.
Okay? I had to go look for money, and they told me that I have to go to a particular branch to go get money that I ordinarily put in the banking sector. So I think the central bank should be focused on liquidity. How do we? Because it's painful. The whole day on that day, I spent the whole day looking for cash. Looking for cash. Okay? Because I needed to use cash. So consolidation will make the bank stronger. We're hearing now that the first African bank to be fully registered in the US is a Nigerian bank. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are quite a number of instruments that these banks can deploy to be able to help businesses to go to the next level.
Phase.
So there should be a lot of code cutting this time around. Everybody has to, because it's painful when you are saying, okay, there is austerity measure, you are removing subsidy, and 1,411 people are going to COP28, a situation where few people can just go and come back to step down what they have learned from other people. So the people are watching, and it's about what is called body language. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's not only Mr. President telling us that he's going to sell. He should even sell without telling us. So if I'm flying to Dubai and I see Mr. President on business class in Emirates, and I'm able to shake hands with him, man, that is
fantastic. Or you can cast it down. Now, I think it's an interesting dimension, but for you as an MSME, that is the point. We are bringing out these issues so that you can also relate with them. Like the GMD is pointing out, there needs to be a serious cost-cutting measures that you need to put in place, because we are seeing the economy. We're talking about how do you make projections for next year, and the GMD has pointed out there are two things that you need to do, or rather three things. One, how do you increase your revenue? How do you reduce your cost? And how do you achieve, these
combination of
these two initiatives? So it's very critical, and so that brings us back to this issue. All right. Yeah, we salute Mr. President for taking initiative to sell the private jet. But how do you see the economy when the president himself is projecting to spend 45% of our revenue for 2024 on debt servicing?
Yeah, when it comes to debt servicing, you do not have a choice now. Okay? I mean, that is even good. The president, from the person that we've seen, is forward-looking.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's forward-looking, and if 45 is able to service our debt, there has been, I've listened to quite a number of arguments where they say, no, the most indebted nation in the world is the US. Okay, so today we've not borrowed up to 10%, 10% of our GDP, so which means that we have room to be able to borrow more. So, but the argument has always been, if you borrow, what do you do with it? That is where I think the major problem is. A situation where you borrow and you steal half of what you borrowed, that is where our challenge is. And that's why some people are also advocating that we need to move on to nations like the China, where there is capital punishment for corruption. There's nothing wrong with borrowing. If you borrow today to build, the last time I was in Dubai, in the Dubai Mall, where, I mean, it was like practically a human traffic, where all nationals of the world are represented, coming to spend their money. Okay, so if you borrow, for example, to build something like a Dubai Mall, that will be a beauty of the world that the world will be coming to see, you will see that people from all other nations will come to have spend their money here. So with that, you can easily even get back what you have done. So spending 45% at this point in time is even reasonable, because it goes to a point where all our revenue needed to go. We're going into debt servicing. So if that projection is good, and we're able to make adequate revenue to be able to meet up that projection. But again, we must look for how to stop corruption. How do we stop corruption? Which is very important. It's no longer a lip service. Okay? We are in Africa today where people explain everything.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, the kind of system, administrative system I see today, where if I accuse you of something, rather than explain, you are reacting. Okay? So, 1,411 people went to court. The Nigerian people observed. For me, it was a mistake. Sorry. Next time we'll take measure. We move on. But when you now try to start defending it, you defend it to the point where you now start making mistake. Because let's estimate how much was actually spent. It's enough to build a big factory, not even a small factory now, to employ that number of people that we're talking about. And that is where we need to focus on as a nation. How do we grow? How do we become disciplined? We are not yet disciplined as individuals in this nation. So most of the things that we say are just lip services. Okay? So we must be disciplined. We must agree to say, this is where we are. This is the problem that we are facing today. This is how to collectively
address this.
Nigeria is a big nation, my brother.
Yes.
The largest economy in Africa. Anywhere you go in the world, you find 10 black people, about 6 of them are Nigerians. So now we are witnessing people where people are jackpotting. Okay? So why can't we reverse it to have jackpot? Okay? So 45% with discipline, that could go a long way to solve our problem, but we must generate more revenue, and we have the opportunities to do that. I mean, look at Dubai, UAE, Thailand. It's now becoming a center of attraction.
This COP17 attracted over 70,000 people. So
and they are prepared.
Yes, you can imagine a country where within a week or two, you are going to have 70,000, not just.
And they enter the economy without the economy shaking.
Without the economy shaking.
The accommodations have been fully prepared. The transportation scheme is
in place.
Is in place, and everything is working as planned. So, and that's why today Dubai is saying, look, we welcome you. The moment you cannot live by our rules, we cut you off.
Yes.
And they don't have anything.
They set the standards.
They don't have anything to lose. And very, very interesting.
So the game thing here is that for you as an MSME, you need to learn how to. It's not about the debt. We have issues where some persons, because of their faith or their belief, think that they cannot borrow.
No. The truth of the matter is that if you don't borrow,
yes,
you cannot grow your company. Okay, I mean, you can choose not to borrow. Okay, I think what that scripture is probably saying is that don't borrow for consumption. Okay, you can borrow for infrastructure.
Yes.
As an MSME, if you don't borrow, there is no way you can grow. That's the truth of the matter. So what you do is borrow for the right infrastructure to be able to drive your company. And for me, I don't have a problem with interest rate. Why do I say so? If your interest rate is able to, if you're able to cover your interest rate and your principal, okay, at the end of your borrowing, well and good.
Yeah. As long as you have achieved the objective of borrowing.
Yes. So that is that. So let's correct that notion for MSMEs today.
Yes.
If you really want to grow to become mega companies, okay, I mean, there are innovative ways big companies in the US do it. At a point in time, you can decide to float shares.
Exactly.
Okay, to be able to attract more money, because your money alone, if it's not a stolen money, it cannot help you to grow your company. So you can have a form of equity, debt. These are instruments which you use to develop. Like I mentioned, the problem is a CEO, for example, borrows a 1 billion. He now starts to live a life of 1 billion.
Marry one more additional wives.
And buy exotic cars.
And begin to go for irrelevant retreats.
And begin to buy exotic cars and holidays. Meanwhile, it's a company that is borrowing, not you. So, as an entrepreneur, see yourself as a component of that business.
Yes.
But the moment you see yourself as the owner, okay, that, I mean, there's nothing wrong even if with you being an owner. An owner is entitled to your salary and to your
allowance.
Your allowance and your share at the end of the year. Like December now, that's when you consolidate and, check how much profit you have made, check how much you need to plow back to the business and how much you need to take on to go and enjoy yourself. There is room for that. Okay? If you've made a good profit and now tell yourself, okay, I want to go and spoil myself with 20% of that, so be it. So, but you must be able to separate your principal the money you are using to do the business that's the capital now. You must be able to separate it from your own personal finances. And that's why as your business grows, you must have your accounts department. So who tells you?
Who control these processes, and these expenditures. Now, very quickly, so that we can wrap up this segment, I want us to look at, because as an MSME, possibly you are currently growing your business, and like the GMD pointed out, you might need to take initiatives. It's not bad in borrowing, but you borrow for initiative, you borrow for infrastructure, you borrow for investment. And so it's important because remember we also talked about the need for you to increase your revenue. And maybe one way you need to increase your revenue is to possibly open up another business that can, because in Nigeria, if you are focused in doing one business,
you're not going to. It's called diversification.
Exactly.
Multiple stream of income. And today, if you are listening, that is the secret for you to survive in Nigeria. If you do one line of business, you can get hits anytime. So what you do is, as you're making the profit, you can diversify your business. The banking sector, they call it a profit center.
Yes.
Every branch is a profit center. So because you are supposed to make profit. So if you diversify, make sure that diversification is being able to, first of all, take care of yourself. Once you are now able to take care of yourself, of that, then you now look, how much profit can they make? Okay? So, two things that we are encouraging you to do now: diversify, then operate what is called multiple stream of income. With that, you will remain in business in Nigeria.
So quickly, we want to give you, those key sectors that are going to be driving the economy in 2024. Possibly you're already in those sectors, or you are in a different sector. You might also begin to look at how you can integrate your business, or expand your business, or diversify your business into one of these sectors. So the first one we have is transportation.
Transportation, big business. If you live in Abuja, that's where government also had to come in now. Infrastructure. Okay, we sat down recently with an ex-road safety official to look at a robust transportation scheme for the FCT, for example. So when we mention FCT, Lagos is already coming up with the rail, with the BRT buses. Recently, the Ogun State governor has deployed some number of CNG compressed natural gas buses. And we also did some work on CNG to say it will cut your cost by about 65%.
Wow.
So transportation is critical. And that's where I have problem with government. I mean, Goodluck Jonathan, president one time, mentioned that, look, every government should grow some mega entrepreneurs. Dangote, Otedola, that. So if we ask the last government who
were they able to grow?
Were you able to grow? This current government, who are you going to grow? So if government have that kind of mindset, it will, I mean, today, if you ask anybody around you, private sector, government, who will you want to work with? They probably prefer government, which is a wrong notion. So the transportation scheme, we arrived at, if you have a 400 to 1,000 bus, you can run a comprehensive urban transport scheme for FCT. And what happens? It means that the owner will be making money, the employees will be making money, governments will be making money. So if you ask me, how is government going to be making money? So if you peg a bus drop, for example, at 200, you can say, okay, for every 200 that the person is paying, government is getting maybe 10 naira, 20 naira for every of that drop. And just imagine that the volume that you have on a daily basis. So government built the infrastructure, the private sector brought in the buses, the people are employed. Because today the major problem we have in Nigeria is the employment problem. You understand what I'm saying now? Okay, so government want to tax, I don't have a problem with that, but if I want to change job now, if tomorrow I say, okay, I want to leave what I'm doing, I want to go and get a job, how easy is it for me to get a job? And that's where transportation comes in. Transportation, you have intra-city, you have the intercity, okay? I'm trying to take a decision now. 2 of my kids are in Ibadan. By the time we check the flight from Ibadan to Abuja, 143,000. For an average transport that used to be around 65. So, and I have to say to my daughters, look, we have to look at the options of you coming by road. I say, okay, they buy in. So you see, it's holistic. Rail, air, road.
Yes.
Then you now talk about the intercity. So people should come together because it's huge investments. People should come together to say, okay, me and you, let us see how we can possibly have like 10 to 20 buses, well run, then you are in business. So we encourage people to begin to think buses. And when you think about buses now, think about electric buses.
Exactly.
Okay? Think about CNG buses as a way of cutting costs. And part of the things that is shown that I want to take as a CEO for next year is that, look, out of the fleets of cars that we have, one of them must be on CNG. So that one can run up and down. Because the cost of transportation is crazy right now.
It's crazy. All right. We don't have much time to tell you, but of course we have telecoms, financial sector, manufacturing, and real estate. Until we come your way again next time. Your last word, sir.
Yeah. So, 2023 is coming to an end.
Yes.
If you have survived up to this end, it means that 2024 is going to be better. If you want to pull a trigger, you have to pull it backward for it to gain speed.
Yes.
So everything you did in 2023 was for you to gain speed in 2024. And we know that 2024 is going to be better for the MSME. And if you do need consultation, we are available to help you see how your enterprise can grow. Thank you and have a wonderful